So you want to play Predecessor, but you have no clue what you're doing? Well, stick around as this video is designed to help you understand and get you through your first matches of Predecessor. So what is Predecessor? Predecessor is a multiplayer online battle arena, or MOBA for short. A classic 3-lane, 5 vs 5 battle with heroes with different roles and abilities. Think League of Legends, Dota, or Smite. But the difference with Predecessor is that it's a third-person action MOBA where verticality plays a major role. For this guide, we will be covering 4 topics: hero roles, lane roles, objectives, and the heads-up display. If you enjoy the guide, please leave a like and consider subscribing. Timestamps are in the description. Without further ado, let's get this started. Predecessor has more than 30 heroes, each with their own unique abilities. Each hero is equipped with 4 abilities that you upgrade as the match progresses. And choosing a hero usually dictates which lane of the map is your responsibility. So let's talk about each hero role. The first role is the Offlaner, also known as solo. These heroes are normally your very tanky characters. Usually building items such as defense and health creates an unstoppable force. This role is designed to be the frontliner in the team fights, protecting the rest of the team from damage. Next is your Midlaner, normally magical damage characters that excel in burst damage and assassinations. Your Midlaner usually builds straight damage and is basically a glass cannon. Midlaner's basic attack don't compare in damage like their abilities do. Following Midlaner is the jungler. Junglers are your tipping scale of the team. The main job of the jungler is to stay in the jungle killing jungle minion camps. Then at a high enough level, rotate into each lane to create an offset of ally to enemy ratio. Don't stay in lane for too long though. Return back to the jungle and continue killing those camps. Next is the attack damage carry or ADC for short. These characters are your damage dealers of the team, building items that usually increase damage and attack speed. These characters shred through health with just their basic attacks, leaving their abilities to help secure the kills. Keep in mind, this role has the greatest potential for high kill count, but also can be easily killed. Lastly, we have the support role. With large mana pools, these characters assist the carry and the rest of the team with abilities that increase healing, shielding, or even walling off the enemies to keep them away. Supports are vital to any team fight as they bring various abilities to disrupt the enemy team's momentum. Consider playing this role if you don't mind having 0 kills on your team, but assisting others securing their spot at the top of the leaderboard. Each role throughout the match has different responsibilities. These responsibilities come from the lanes assigned. Starting in the same order. First off, we have Offlane, a 1 versus 1 lane where you're secluded on the map. This lane is always on the Orb Prime and Cyan buff side, indicated by the purple and cyan colored circles on the map. The main responsibility for this role is a split push for the team. While most team fights are 4v4 near the duo lane, it's the responsibility of the offlaner to be in another lane taking control. Aside from split pushing, learn to rotate to other lanes to turn the tides of fights in your favor. As the tank of the team, you'll also be responsible for initiating fights. Inside the off lane, you have the Cyan buff, a quick small regen to your health and mana, also giving gold. This allows you to stay in lane longer than your adversary, thus giving you more time to farm the lane minions. Next is the mid lane, center of the map and the most susceptible to enemy ganks. The mid lane needs to have the most map awareness, as you are the crossing section for all heroes to move between lanes. You're responsible for letting your teams know where the enemy mid laner and the jungler are at. If you see the enemy jungler move to the right side jungle, use the comm system to ping careful right, then ping enemy stealth. This helps right lane know to be careful and also lets left lane know they can be aggressive. 2 buffs are near mid lane. They are called river buffs. A random color bug that spawns left and right side of mid lane and can take the colors pink, orange, gray, and green. Always given mana, and depending on the color it gives a certain buff. Next we have the jungler. Your main role as the jungler is to stay in the jungle and killing camps, then harassing enemy lane heroes. Your job is to turn the tides of fights in your favor. If you see a 1v1 happening in mid lane, consider coming up behind the enemy mid lane and turn the tables into a 2v1. Kill or no kill, this takes pressure off your allies. Take the red buff or blue buff to help clear the jungle camps and give you an advantage sooner. Killing red or blue camp at level 1 always levels you up to level 2. Moving along to duo lane, hosting a whopping 4 heroes, 2 allies, and 2 enemies. This lane is the busiest. The main role of this lane is to farm and level up the ADC of the team. Duo lane is marked by Fangtooth and gold buff, the brown and gold circles on the map. ADC and support run this lane and must work as a team in order to keep control. Periodically take the gold buff for the ADC in order to allow them to get gold faster, thus buying items faster. If you're comfortable enough and some enemies are dead and awaiting respawn, consider taking Fangtooth to help out your team. Speaking of Fangtooth, let's move along to objectives. A match of Predecessor has various objectives each lane or team needs to prioritize. The main objective is the enemy core, the game-winning objective. Taking the enemy core stops the game and the match has a winner. Aside from the main objective, the map has 2 major objectives, Orb Prime and Fangtooth. Fangtooth spawns in at 5 minutes into the match and gives a permanent buff to the entire team who kills it. After 3 Fangtooth kills, he evolves into Primal Fangtooth. When killed, grants a temporary buff to on-hit damage for the entire team. Taking this buff can help secure team fights. Orb spawns in as Mini Prime at 7 minutes, a single target buff that takes a little more damage to kill than Fangtooth, granting the killer a temporary 15% damage increase and allied minion buff aura. This buff can be used to buff your strongest ally and help them steamroll the enemies. At 19 minutes and 40 seconds, Mini Prime will despawn from the map to allow Orb Prime to spawn in at 20 minutes. Orb Prime is a massive team-wide buff that can massively turn the tables of a match, granting the killing team a temporary buff to physical damage, out of combat health, and mana regen. This objective truly can be the match ender. Aside from these major objectives, the minor objectives we've already covered some, but let's go into more detail. Minions, the main source of farming for heroes to level up. The river buffs give mana regen and, depending on the color, a slight increase to a stat. Pink buff gives temporary ability damage increase. Orange buff gives temporary attack speed. Gray buff gives temporary movement speed. And green buff gives temporary shield. There are stronger jungle camps like red buff gives you attack damage and slow on basic hits, while blue buff gives you mana regen, ability haste, and damage to non-hero enemies. In duo lane, the gold buff gives you extra gold to use in the shop, while in off lane, the Cyan buff gives you a chunk of health and mana back to the killer. Players who neglect these objectives are doomed to lose these matches. Each buff in its own right can help you turn the tides of the fight. Finally, let's talk about the in-game UI and map. First and foremost, the current UI as of version 13 is what we will be covering. but Omega Studios has stated that another UI is in the works and will be released at a later date. However, most of what I'll be covering will still translate to the next UI. For the first topic I want to talk about is the map itself. Predecessor's entire map is symmetrical in both left and right, and also top and bottom, meaning no matter what side your team is on, the path is identical. The only difference is the location of Gold, Cyan, Fangtooth, and Orb Prime, as there is only one of these and they are located specifically in a certain spot. Moving along is the rest of the UI. At the top of the screen is the match counter. It counts up as the match time progresses. All the spawns we talked about earlier is based on these times. Below the time is a number in blue and in orange. Blue color indicates allied team kills, while orange indicates enemy team kills. Anything in blue is allied, while orange is enemy. Moving along to the character portraits. Allied character portraits show the hero with a blue bar indicated their health, a purple bar indicating their mana. Inside the portraits are two diamonds. An orange diamond that when lit indicates that hero's blink ability is available. When unlit, it means it's on cooldown. The blue diamond appears when you upgrade your ultimate ability to level 1. The first level is available at level 6. When the blue diamond is lit, that hero's ultimate is available. Looking at the enemy hero portraits, you don't see their health, mana, blink, or ultimate. Team comms and map awareness come into play here, knowing when their abilities are down. When a hero is killed and awaiting respawn, the portrait will darken and a red timer will count down until a hero respawns. Respawn times get longer as a match progresses. Next to the character portraits is a number with a raptor skull on it. This is an indicator of how many times each team has killed either Fangtooth or Primal Fangtooth. Going to the lower left of the UI is the player level. A player levels up in a match from level 1 to 18. At level 18, base stats are at maximum and only get bonuses from items bought in the store. Abilities at level 18 are also completely leveled up. Above the level is a blue line. This is your experience bar, and will grow as you gain experience from minions and hero kills. Over from your level is your KDA, or kill, death, assists. How many kills you have, how many deaths you have, and how many assist kills you have. Assists are granted by doing damage within a time frame to an enemy hero before an ally makes the final hit to kill. The next icon over is a little cloaked figure. This icon indicates your CS, or creep score, the amount of minions you have last hit. Lastly on this section is the unspent gold you have acquired in this match. As you kill minions, heroes, or objectives, you collect gold to spend in-match store on items to upgrade your hero. Now at the bottom of the screen are your abilities. Initially grayed out until you level them up to level 1. Each level will add a diamond at the bottom of the ability. Below your abilities are your health and mana, giving you a more specific number for both. Each ability costs a specific amount of mana. This does not raise or lower levels. If an ability costs 40 mana at the start of the game, it will remain 40 mana until the end. Next portion of the UI is your crest. At the start of the match, you choose a crest, an extra item that can be evolved in completing a task as described. Once evolved, will grant an extra effect when activated. And lastly, for the UI, at the bottom right are your items. The first 3 slots are your active items. Slot 1 for everyone besides jungler is a health potion, while jungler gets an item called Hunt. Players may refer to it as Smite. It gives 500 true damage, then later evolves into 1000 true damage. This can only be used on non-hero units, also cannot be used on towers. The 5 squares to the right of the screen are your item slots, only allowing 5 items at a time, no matter the tier of the item. We covered a lot so far. The last part I want to cover is the item shop. You can only buy items while in your home base, also called the well, or simply spawn. Each item is broken down by the bonuses that they give, and can be filtered in that way. There are 3 tiers to each item. Ultimately, your goal is to buy 5 tier 3 items to be fully built. Each tier 3 item is broken down into tier 2, then tier 1 items. Tier 1 items are cheap, usually costing around 350 gold to buy. Tier 2 ups the price around 900 to 1200 gold, while tier 3 items cost the most, ranging between 2500 and 4000 gold. But don't fear, any gold that you spend on an item tree's lower levels, it lowers the total cost of that item above it. There are a lot of items to explore, and each game is unique and will require you to build slightly different every time. But getting started first, the recommended items are always a good starting point. We covered a lot in this video, however there is so much more we can learn. I plan to make more in-depth guides on specific topics within Predecessor, like lane guides, hero guides, tips to counter heroes, and much more. Hit subscribe if you want to see more. Check out my Twitch and my other socials in the description below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the battlefield.